Hello, everyone. It is so wonderful to connect with you all again. I wanted to check in, ask, have you noticed any positive changes or improvements in your health since trying the tips I've shared? Whether you have more energy in the morning or just feel less sluggish, even the smallest shift is a huge win for your body. I would absolutely about your progress, so please leave a comment and let me know how you're doing. Now, let's dive into today's topic and keep building a healthier life together.
Right now, as you sit in that chair watching this, something is happening inside your legs that most people over 60 never find out about until it is too late to reverse it. And I do not mean too late as in a little harder. I mean too late as in a walker, a wheelchair, a nursing home decision that nobody in your family is ready to have. A study tracking adults over 65 found that 1 in 4 falls every single year in this country, every single year, an older adult is treated in an emergency room for a fall roughly every second of every day. But here is what that statistic does not tell you. Most of those falls were not accidents. Most of them were the final result of a quiet chain of events that started 2 to 3 years earlier in three specific nutrients that almost nobody checks. And if you can do me one favor right now before we go any further, stand up from your chair without using your hands. Go ahead, try it. If you had to grip the armrest, push off your knee, or rock forward to get momentum, I need you to stay with me for the next 30 minutes because that single movement just revealed something your last blood test probably missed entirely. I am sharing this as preventive education based on published clinical research. I am not your personal physician, and nothing here replaces your doctor's care. This is the information that falls through the cracks of a 7-minute appointment because your doctor is not hiding this from you. The system simply does not give them time to explain it. What country are you watching from right now? Drop it in the comments below. I read every single one. Here's what I am going to walk you through today. First, the 10 second floor test you can do tonight in your own kitchen that tells you which layer of your leg strength is failing. Second, the 3 specific nutritional gaps that drain leg strength in this exact order, starting with the one that attacks the nerve signal before your muscle even gets the message. Third, the one lab number that most seniors have never had checked, even though it predicts your fall risk more accurately than most of the tests your doctor does order. Fourth, the food first plan, because real plates of food come before any supplement bottle. And fifth, the 3 questions you absolutely must ask your doctor at your next appointment, including one about a medication that millions of seniors take every morning that quietly blocks the very nutrient your legs are starving for. I am going to save the most important one of those 3 questions for the end. Because if you take a certain common supplement the way most health conscious people take it, you may be accelerating the exact weakness you are trying to prevent. Let me tell you about a pattern I have seen dozens of times in practice. Sandra represents this pattern almost exactly. She was 67, a retired postal worker from Virginia. For 38 years, she walked her route, 6 miles a day, sometimes more in summer. She retired strong, healthy, and genuinely proud of her legs. 2 years after retirement, she noticed something she did not mention to anyone. Getting up from the low chair on her back porch felt different. She had started planting her hand on the armrest without thinking about it. She told herself it was the chair, then it was the stairs inside her house. She started leading with the same foot, taking them one at a time. She told herself that was just being careful. Then her daughter visited and noticed Sandra was leaning against the wall while talking on the phone. Not for support, exactly, just there, touching it. Sandra dismissed it. What do you even say to a doctor? I feel a little unsteady. There is no test for that, she assumed. So she waited and she compensated. She stopped walking in the neighborhood because the sidewalk felt uneven. She stopped going down to her basement. She moved her reading chair from the living room to the bedroom because the living room one sat too low. Every single accommodation she made to feel safer was removing the one thing that might have slowed what was happening. Movement. Here is the part that should make you genuinely uncomfortable. Research on older adults and bed rest studies has documented losses of roughly 1 to 1.5% of leg muscle strength for every single day of immobility. Every single day. A person who stops moving to protect their legs is, without knowing it, dismantling them. Sandra's spiral was tightening silently, the same way it tightens for millions of capable adults who have never been told what is actually happening inside their legs. All right, before I tell you what was found in Sandra's labs, I need you to understand something. Your leg strength is not one system, it is three separate systems stacked on top of each other. And a nutritional gap can knock out any one of them without touching the others. The nerve has to send the signal, the muscle has to receive that signal and contract, and the actual muscle fiber has to be there to do the work. Three layers, three nutrients, and they fail in a specific order. Start with the nerve, because this is the first domino, and almost nobody talks about it. The signal that tells your thigh to fire travels down a nerve. That nerve is wrapped in a protective coating called myelin. Think of it like the plastic insulation on an electrical wire. When that insulation frays, the signal gets slower, weaker, noisier. You do not feel this as weakness at first. You feel it as clumsiness, a foot that does not clear the step, a slight numbness in the toes, balance that is not quite what it was, often starting in both feet at once, creeping upward like a sock being pulled slowly higher. And here is what makes this particularly dangerous. For someone over 60, your balance depends on knowing where your feet are in space without looking at them. Researchers call this proprioception. It is the internal map your body keeps of the floor, and that map runs entirely on the nerves that one specific vitamin protects. When those nerves fray, your body loses its map, which is exactly why people with this deficiency fall more in the dark, on stairs, and on uneven ground. Not because they are clumsy, because the wiring is going out. That vitamin is B12. And here is what the system does not tell you. The body's ability to absorb B12 from food drops significantly with age. The stomach lining produces less acid and less of a protein called intrinsic factor. Both of those are required to capture B12 from a meal. This is not your fault. This is biology. And it happens quietly over years, while every other number on your blood panel looks completely normal. Published clinical data suggests that somewhere between 1 in 5 and 1 in 4 older adults may have clinically low or borderline B12 levels. Think about that number, 1 in 5. If you are in a room with 5 seniors, statistically, one of them is walking around with fraying nerve insulation right now and has no idea. But here is what makes B12 deficiency particularly treacherous. The standard B12 blood test can come back in the normal range while a functional deficiency is already underway. There is a separate marker called methylmalonic acid. When B12 runs short, methylmalonic acid builds up in the blood. That buildup can be detected on a lab test before the standard B12 number ever looks abnormal. Most seniors have never had this test. Most doctors never order it unless someone specifically asks. That is not your doctor's fault. It is a 7-minute appointment with 12 problems to address. And this particular detail lives in the gap between visits. Now, the second layer, even when the signal arrives, the muscle has to contract. And contraction depends on minerals moving in and out of the muscle cell. Here's the mechanism, and I want you to picture this carefully. To relax after a contraction, your muscle has to pump calcium back out of the cell. That pump runs on a magnesium dependent molecule called ATP. Without enough magnesium, the muscle cannot relax cleanly. So it cramps, it twitches, it tires fast. That nighttime calf cramp that yanks you awake, the legs that feel like concrete after a single flight of stairs. That is often the magnesium layer failing. National nutrition surveys suggest that close to half of older adults take in less magnesium than the recommended daily amount. Close to half. Because the foods richest in it, the dark leafy greens, the seeds, the legumes, tend to drop out of an older person's diet quietly, one meal at a time. And here is the detail that catches even careful, health conscious people completely off guard. Magnesium and vitamin D are not independent, they work together in a chain. Your body needs magnesium dependent enzymes in your liver and kidneys to convert vitamin D into its active form. Low magnesium means your vitamin D does not work the way it should, no matter how many capsules you swallow. I will come back to this because it is the piece that explains why some people are taking high dose supplements and still getting weaker. Now, the third layer, and this one goes the deepest. There are receptors for vitamin D sitting directly on your muscle fibers, not in your blood, not in your bones, on the fibers themselves. When D is sufficient, those receptors help drive muscle protein synthesis, the constant rebuilding process your muscles perform to stay functional. When D is deficient, that rebuilding slows. The muscle fiber shrinks, and not any muscle fiber. Specifically, the fast twitch type 2 fibers, the ones you need to catch yourself when you stumble, the catch reflex, the split second correction that keeps a trip from becoming a fall. Age attacks those fibers first. Vitamin D deficiency accelerates that attack. Researchers looking at pooled data across multiple trials have found that correcting low vitamin D in deficient older adults may reduce fall risk by roughly 20 to 30% in the populations that actually started out deficient. The findings vary between studies, and your doctor can help you interpret what they mean for your specific situation. But the direction is clear, and it has been consistent across dozens of studies over more than a decade. So, when Sandra's labs finally came back after her daughter convinced her to get a full panel, three things were low. Her vitamin D was well below 20 nanograms per milliliter. Most clinicians want to see at least 30. Her magnesium was sitting at the very bottom of the normal range on the standard serum test. Here is what almost nobody explains about that number. Only about 1% of the magnesium in your body actually circulates in your blood. The rest lives inside cells and inside bone. So, a serum magnesium test is like judging a swimming pool by looking at the condensation on the outside of the glass. It can look perfectly normal while your tissues are running on empty. And her B12 was low enough that she had started to lose sensation in her toes. She had mentioned this to her doctor at one point. He told her it was probably circulation. It was not circulation, it was the nerve insulation fraying from a nutrient gap that had been building for 3 years. Every one of those three gaps was correctable. Every one of them had been quietly draining her leg strength for years, and not one of them had ever been checked. If this information is new to you right now, I want you to do me a favor. Hit the like button so the algorithm shows this to one more person over 60 who needs to hear this before a fall happens, not after. Now, let me show you three different people who look nothing like Sandra but ended up in exactly the same place. Because if you think this is one specific type of person, you might assume it is not you. First, picture someone who is meticulous about their health. Eleanor represents a pattern I have seen over and over. She takes a calcium supplement, a multivitamin, fish oil, and a high dose vitamin D capsule every morning. She has done this for years. She is careful. She reads labels, and yet her legs were getting weaker and her cramps were getting worse, not better. Why? She takes no magnesium. And the more high dose D she pushed in, the more her body demanded magnesium to process it. She was deepening a deficiency she did not know she had. Eleanor is the person doing more and getting less, and she is far more common than most people realize. Second, there is someone like Sam, 65, retired, lean, and active his entire life. His problem was hiding in his medicine cabinet. He had been on a common acid reducing medication, the kind millions of seniors take for heartburn, for 9 years. The FDA has issued a safety communication noting that long-term use of this category of medication, the proton pump inhibitors, those whose names often end in prazole, may be associated with reduced magnesium levels in the blood. And separately, these medications work by reducing stomach acid, which is the same acid your body needs to release B12 from protein in food. Sam was eating well, but his body could no longer pull those two nutrients out of his food the way it used to. His feet went numb. His doctor checked B12 only after Sam specifically asked for the test. It was strikingly low. Sam is the case that proves you can do everything right with food and still have a gap if something is blocking absorption. Third, there is someone like Joyce, 75, in South Carolina. She had eaten very little animal protein for 20 years, not strictly avoiding it, just naturally drifting away from it. B12 is found almost exclusively in animal foods. What little she did take in, her aging digestive system struggled to absorb. She had the slow creeping nerve version of this deficiency, tingling feet, poor balance in the dark, a sense that her legs were not quite under her. She had started reaching for the wall in the hallway at night without consciously realizing she was doing it. Three different people, three different paths, same three nutrients, same weakening legs. Here is the 10-second test to figure out which layer might be failing for you. Stand behind a sturdy chair with your hands resting lightly on the back for safety only. Lift one foot slightly off the floor and try to balance on the other leg for 10 seconds. Then switch. Research published in a peer reviewed sports medicine journal found that middle aged and older adults who could not hold a single leg stand for 10 seconds appeared to have a meaningfully higher risk of death over the following decade, even after accounting for age and other health factors. That association does not tell us the balance test causes anything, but it reflects underlying systems that matter enormously. If you cannot make 10 seconds on either side, that points strongly toward the nerve and balance layer, the B12 and signaling problem. Next, sit in a standard kitchen chair, fold your arms across your chest, and stand up and sit back down 5 times as fast as you safely can. This is called the 5 times sit to stand test. Geriatric clinicians use it regularly because it gives a reliable snapshot of lower body functional strength. If it takes you longer than roughly 12 to 15 seconds, or if you cannot do it without your hands, that points toward the muscle and vitamin D layer. Write down your actual seconds tonight. That number is your baseline. You are going to need it in about 60 days. Now, let me tell you what happened to Sandra after the gaps were found and addressed. In the first 2 weeks, nothing dramatic. That is completely normal. And I want to be straight with you about that timeline because the number one reason people stop is that they expect fast results in the first week. And when they do not see them, they conclude it is not working. It is working. The cellular repair is underway. You just cannot feel it yet. In weeks 3 and 4, Sandra noticed the calf cramps at night were less frequent. Not gone, less. In weeks 6 through 8, she reported that the stairs felt slightly different, more reliable under her feet. By the end of 3 months, she did the chair test again. Her time dropped from 19 seconds to 11, just below the clinical threshold. Her daughter stopped noticing the wall touching. Sandra herself said the thing she noticed most was that she stopped thinking about the floor. That vigilance, that constant low-grade monitoring of every surface had been quietly exhausting her. And she had not even realized she was doing it until it began to ease. Sandra's results were on the better end of what I typically see. Your experience may be different. Some people see changes faster, some slower. What matters is the direction. So here is exactly what to do starting tonight. And I want to be absolutely clear before you change anything based on this video. Talk to your physician about your specific situation. Everything here is general education. Your body is unique, and your doctor is your partner in this, not your opponent. Step 1, get the right labs, not the standard panel, the specific ones. Ask your physician for a 25-hydroxy D test. That is the vitamin D level A serum B12. And here is the one most seniors have never had run. An RBC magnesium test, that stands for red blood cell magnesium. It reads the mineral inside the cell, not just what is floating in the bloodstream. Write those three names on a piece of paper before your appointment. Bring the paper, because in a 10-minute visit with a busy physician, the details that are not written down tend to fall away. And if your B12 comes back in the low normal gray zone, ask specifically about a methylmalonic acid test. That is the early warning marker that catches a functional shortage before the standard number looks bad. Most physicians will not order it unless you ask for it by name. Step 2, go food first. Food is safer than guessing with pills, and it addresses the absorption side too. For B12, the most concentrated sources are beef liver, salmon, sardines, eggs, and dairy. A 3-ounce serving of salmon or 2 eggs gets you a meaningful share of a day's needs. A few servings per week makes a real difference for most people. If you eat very little animal protein, this is the conversation to have with your doctor about supplementation. For magnesium, reach for pumpkin seeds, which are among the densest sources available. Almonds, spinach, black beans, and a small amount of dark chocolate. An ounce of pumpkin seeds delivers roughly a third of an adult's daily magnesium. A serving of dark leafy greens on top of that moves the needle further for vitamin D, fatty fish like salmon and sardines, egg yolks, and sensible sun exposure where your skin tolerates it. The ability of older skin to synthesize D from sunlight drops to a small fraction of what it was at 20. So sun alone is often not enough after 65, but it helps. Step 3, pair protein with movement. No nutrient builds muscle. You do not ask your body to keep. Research in geriatric nutrition increasingly suggests that older adults need more protein than the standard recommendations from decades past. Many specialists now suggest something in the range of 1 to 1.25 grams per kilogram of body weight per day, spread across meals. Aging muscle is more resistant to the signal protein sends and needs a larger stimulus to respond. Aim with your doctor's guidance for protein at every meal, roughly a palm-sized portion, and do the chair stand test you did at the beginning of this video, 10 repetitions twice a day. That movement signal combined with the building blocks from protein combined with the vitamins is the complete chain. The exercise is not optional. Nutrients have nothing to act on without the mechanical signal telling your body to maintain those fibers. Now, I need to be crystal clear about drug interactions for everything I have mentioned. This is the part most people skip and is the part that matters most. If you are taking blood pressure medications, particularly the diuretics, the water pills, those medications actively flush magnesium out through your kidneys. This means you may need more magnesium from food or supplements than someone not on those medications. Talk to your doctor about monitoring your levels more frequently. If you are on metformin for blood sugar, published research has shown that a meaningful fraction of long-term users develop low B12 levels. Metformin interferes with the way your gut absorbs B12. Some guidelines now recommend periodic B12 monitoring for anyone who has been on metformin for more than a few years. If nobody has mentioned this to you, bring it to your next appointment. If you are taking the acid-reducing proton pump inhibitors, the ones whose names end in prazole, long-term use is associated with lower magnesium and impaired B12 absorption. Do not stop any prescription medication on your own. That is not what I am saying. What I am saying is that a conversation about monitoring is entirely reasonable, and your doctor will likely welcome it. And if you are supplementing vitamin D at higher doses, say 4,000 units or more daily, please make sure you are getting adequate magnesium alongside it. High dose vitamin D without sufficient magnesium can push calcium into the wrong places, into arterial walls rather than bone. There is published clinical trial data suggesting that very high monthly doses of vitamin D actually increased falls in some older adult populations rather than decreasing them. More is not always better. Moderate, consistent, monitored is better. Step 4, Review your medicine cabinet with your pharmacist. Ask specifically whether anything you take may be affecting your B12 or magnesium. That is a simple, direct question. Your pharmacist can answer it in about 90 seconds, and it might explain everything. Now, for the one thing that even careful, health conscious seniors get completely backwards, it is vitamin D. The mistake is taking high dose D alone by itself for years without attention to magnesium and without periodic level checks. Here is the correct approach for most people: a moderate daily dose, something in the range of 1,000 to 2,000 units for many older adults, though your doctor should guide your specific amount based on your blood level, taken alongside adequate magnesium with your level rechecked every 6 to 12 months. Dosing to your actual number rather than guessing, because the dose that corrects a deficiency in one person is entirely wrong for another. And a level that is already in range from food and sun exposure does not need a. I am not going to sugarcoat this. The first week, nothing feels different. And I know that is frustrating to hear, but the body does not repair years of depletion in 7 days. Stay with it. Week two, some people begin to notice sleep quality shifting slightly, the calf cramps at night becoming less intense or less frequent. That is the magnesium beginning to normalize. Week three is typically when things start to move energy while climbing stairs, a steadiness on uneven ground that was not there before. Most of my patients call around week three, week four, and beyond. The numbers start to shift. The lab values, the sit to stand time, the balance hold, the discomfort you feel in week one is not a sign it is not working. In my experience, it is often the opposite. It confirms that the correction is underway and the body is adjusting. I know some of you are thinking, I have been taking vitamins for years and I still feel weak. And if that is you, the question is not whether you are taking something, the question is whether you have the right three things in the right form with the lab data to confirm you are actually correcting a deficiency and not just spending money on capsules that your body's excreting unchanged. The test is the difference. Without the test, you are driving in the dark. Here's what I want you to take from today. Weak legs after 60 are not simply the cost of getting older. In a significant number of cases, the first crack was a quiet gap in vitamin D, in magnesium, or in B12. Every one of those is checkable with a specific lab. Every one is addressable with food and, where needed, targeted supplementation under medical guidance. The floor test takes 10 seconds. The labs cost almost nothing. And catching this early is the difference between someone like Sandra at 65 walking her neighborhood and Sandra at 68 watching it from the window. Type the words "I am ready" in the comments right now if you are going to ask for those three specific labs at your next appointment. Your comment might be exactly what convinces someone else watching this to do the same. And there is one more thing I need to mention before you go. Next week, I am covering the three balance tests that published research has shown can predict a fall risk up to a year before it happens. One of them you can do at your bathroom sink tonight in under 60 seconds. You do not want to miss that one. Subscribe so you see it the moment it goes live. If you have someone in your life who is gripping the handrail, leaning on the grocery cart instead of pushing it, or rocking forward to stand up from a chair, send them this video, not tomorrow, today. They have probably been told it is just aging. It may not be. Do not let anyone tell you it is too late, because it is not.